Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadtour.com. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin. Andy, we have a slam today of silver below all these moving averages, which gets the tech funds and their, they have no choice but to start selling their longs and shorting. This is how the wash, rinse, repeat game is played by the bankers. What is it about right now that tells me it is the perfect time to buy? The farther it goes down, the bankers are buying. Why not have everybody, all the little guys, buy as well?
It's a good point, and it's because there has been a divorce. The divorce is between COMEX price and availability. It's something I've been trying to explain to the public for a very long time. I've been trying to tell people that the market will be identified by difficulty sourcing product and high premiums. And it's difficult for people to hear me say that along the way when they see that there has been product. But if you look at the linear progression, Bix, over the past year or year and a half, even really 2 years, it's been of rising premiums, dwindling availability, and a greater pool of competition that we're all competing for the same product. And in other words, in years past, this was always a North American thing where getting product was never a problem. But what you see right now with inflation at all-time highs, or at least since World War II, throughout most of Europe and throughout Japan and all over the place, you got inflation roaring. You got Trudeau and fascist type of proclamations being made by governments. You got entities and governments being kicked out of SWIFT and their money being taken. And there's this awakening. So we are all competing for a very small pool of physical silver. And the price, if the price were reflective of the demand in the industry, it would be 3 to 4 times higher than it really is. So you're right. The smash down, while very disheartening to those of us who have been hearing this and hanging on for a long time, it does represent a subsidy to the public. The only issue is that public is going to have to understand that premiums are much higher than they've ever been. Availability is much slimmer than it's ever been. And, you always talk about buying stuff that's in stock, getting stuff that's in stock. And that's why I reached out to you on Friday to tell you that, hey, we bought a very, very large hoard of product from Singapore, Australian coins from Singapore. We were fortunate enough to get them, and I have them in stock, which I guess in this crazy world we live in, where everything can flip on a dime very quickly for whatever reason, I couldn't agree with you more in that buying things in stock, not on margin, buying things that you can get your hands on right away is very important. So yes, for those people out there who have been waiting for a pullback, look, it was very obvious they were going to push it through the moving averages. They're trying hard to kill the canary in the gold mine. And these are very challenging times for the US dollar. And I think it's got a long road ahead of it. And the last thing that the central planners want is the US dollar screaming bullshit, 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 buy, buy, buy. So for those of us that are listening, it is a subsidy, and we're trying to keep the premiums low on stuff, as low as humanly possible, always for your listeners, to give them that value right now when maybe it's needed most.
I think that's one of the things, one of the reasons we got together and said, hey, let's work together, was I knew that you could sell things right out of your inventory. And I love to tell people, hey, ask Andy what's in inventory and then buy that, because you don't want the risk of, oh yeah, it'll be here in 3 weeks. We've seen it too many times where bullion companies go down. And I will never, ever, ever recommend a company to the Road to Ruta listeners that they might not have it. I know when you say you have something in inventory, you got it. And you can ship it as soon as that money clears. Now, some people sit there and say, well, I gave him my money and my money didn't clear for 10 days. Andy's not going to ship anything until that money clears his bank to make sure that you get it in your hand. But I would like to say the vast majority of times, that's, when people wire you money, that's always the best way. Or even cryptos, you can buy through you guys, you can buy silver with cryptos as well, right?
Correct. And a wire in a crypto, it's done. The problem about the 10 days is, look, in the United States, checks and e-checks clear in 1 to 2 days, period. However, your nephew, who is deviant, steals your check, writes it out, or just copies down the number when you're at the grocery store, then takes a picture, has your routing and account number, and then decides to buy $5,000 worth of gold and silver from you. Hope you'll never notice it, right? So when we do e-checks and personal checks, and I will tell you, it's got to be an industry standard. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but any precious metals company that would not hold a check or e-check for 10 days is an idiot, because there is fraud in this world, and there are people who can wash checks and change names on it and steal account numbers and try to submit ACHs. And so it has been a standard protocol, and I won't deviate from it, is that if you pay by a personal check or e-check, we're giving it 7 business days to clear. 10 days, it's going to clear your account before that. If you want it now, send a wire, send crypto. And, before I ever really understood crypto, you're one of the few guys that's really opened my eyes, at least to understanding it, or trying to understand it, and even dipping my toe into it, thanks to you. I was blown away by the efficiency of crypto transactions, where a 7-figure order on a Sunday night at 8 o'clock at night shows up in my account like that. I'm like, well, how the hell did that just happen? Whereas with a bank wire, it even though it's quick, it could take an afternoon or maybe even a day. Crypto's immediate, but if you want things quickly, yes, a wire and crypto will ship immediately. This is all in stock, over $3 million worth in stock, ready to go. And although we have other products too, this is some of the best stuff I've had in 2022, because getting sovereign issued coins, honestly, is more difficult by large margin than anything I've ever experienced in 32 years of business. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, because I would take for granted in years past Krugerrands, Kangaroos, Philharmonics, Britannias, Maple Leafs, Eagles, you name it, I got it, whatever you want. Now I have Eagles, I have some Noah's Ark coins, the Maples, the Britannias, the Kangaroos, the Philharmonics, the Britannias. Yeah, they're all available, but they're going to be delayed, and they're going to be the highest premiums I've ever seen. And that's the reality of it. Even as a U.S. Mint authorized reseller, selling Silver Eagles at around $14 an ounce over the price of silver, is that a better reflection of what silver spot really is? Maybe. All I can simply tell you is that this is an industry that it's getting harder and harder to get, even with the price that hasn't really cooperated. What happens when we wake up and you've been proven right? And all of a sudden, silver is, instead of moving up by 50 cents, is moving up by $50. And it gets the attention of the hedge funds, and it gets the attention of the financial advisories. And in a flip of a switch, then this really becomes stark. Because look, we have a greater awakening globally of the necessity to diversify out of fiat. And what better place to put it than in an asset like silver, trading half of its all-time high when everything else is blistered through its all-time high. It's for a reason. It's the canary in the mine shaft, just like gold is too. Gold should be a whole hell of a lot higher than it is as well. They just don't want to exacerbate what is already a downdrafting dollar. And I think what's happening now with all of these relationships being struck for oil outside the dollar, it is the beginning of the end of the singular world reserve status of the dollar. When Fed Chairman Powell, right, just a few weeks before I saw you in San Diego, came out and said, hey, there's room for more than one world reserve currency. He's acquiescing to the reality. These are all pieces in a puzzle that are starting to come together. And to me, this is why it's so hard to get it. It's not supply chain. It's not a difficulty getting blanks. It's that there is a growing awareness globally of the need to de-dollarize and to de-fiat, whether you're talking coming out of euros or out of pounds or out of dollars. It's all the same thing. It's taking control, and I think that's what we're all fighting against.
I think a really interesting thing that just came out of the Silver Institute, they just came out with their annual report, and every category in silver was growing.
Mhm.
And then the way they calculate the retail demand for silver is a backfill number. You know how much was mined and or minted, or sorry, mined, and then you add on top of that the recycled, and then you fill in all the rest. And the only thing you don't know is the retail investor. And so they backfill it and they say, okay, since this equals this, this has to be this. I think it's way low what they're saying the retail investor is buying. But the reality is, for the retail investor, you look at certain times, it's a great time to buy. When these moving averages got nailed, yes, it's a great time to buy below those moving averages for price. But there's another metric that I've been looking at lately, and that's the gold silver ratio, which is back above it. I think it hit 81 today. Now, for you guys that didn't know, Andy also accepts swaps, gold for silver. You could do it the other way too, but you'd be insane to do that. You can swap your gold for a certain amount of silver. Depends what kind of gold you have. What you do is just ship it to Andy. He'll inspect it and let you know what kind of, how many of what type of silver he can get you, and he can give you an idea over the phone or via email. Another great way to get your hands on physical silver is to swap your gold for silver. At 81 right now, I mean, obviously there's commissions involved, there's all kinds of shipping involved, insurance and stuff like that, but you can still get a huge amount of silver in relation to gold right now. And if you follow my work, I do think gold is undervalued, but I also know that there's maybe 10 to 20 times more gold in the world than they're saying. So that is also going to be, that's coming down the pike. One of these things that'll blow the socks off any central bank, any gold investor. Most of the gold is held by the banks anyway. So, I mean, we don't really care that they lost their shirt on gold. I care if my people lose their shirt on gold. And
I agree, Bix. I think when I look back at all the big trades I've done over my 30-year career, they've always centered around identification and exploitation of price anomalies. And, you know, when I first started talking about the gold to silver ratio, it was 2010, and it was an 85-to-1 ratio. That was the second or third time in human history it had ever been that high. We are in rarefied air. There is no question about it. And it is an anomaly to see it at an 80-to-1 ratio. It is a price anomaly, and really exacerbated when, you know, and I mean, I went out to dinner with Keith Neumeyer a few weeks ago and asked him this again verbatim. Is it really coming out of the ground globally at 7-to-1? Yes, Andy, it is. Globally, they are pulling out 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. So at 80-to-1, you're nearly 12 times undervalued in an asset that has duality of demand. And that's what's so unique about silver. And maybe that's why they're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at it to keep it from expressing itself, because it's so important in its industrial componentry. But not only that, you have an awakening with the monetary side that I think scares the hell out of the central planners. It's scary because, again, it shines a light upon the frailty of the system, and the system's in big trouble right now. The system is in very big trouble because of the weaponizing of the dollar, the pushing of the Russians out of the SWIFT system into the open arms of the Chinese, who I think is now we're incentivizing a good portion of the world to find a backdoor, to find alternatives. And you can see they're doing that. Like, for example, we've talked about the CIPS system, the cross interbank payment system, which mirrors the SWIFT. They have systems set up, and they are striking deals outside the dollar, and it's of our own making. And so by allowing gold and silver to express themselves, you are shining a spotlight right upon that which they don't want talked about until it's just too obvious. And I keep talking about how significant of a deal it was in September when Russia struck a deal with Saudi Arabia to protect them, the next day with Nigeria. Well, it's no coincidence that Nigeria has already agreed to sell their oil to China for yuan. Russia is doing the exact same thing. India is on board. Now you got China negotiating directly with Saudi Arabia. The days of the dollar being the singular world reserve status is over. And you know, the interesting thing, Bixie, a lot of the things that you and I talk about, we take for granted. I ask people these days, a lot of them, I'll say, especially my friends, when it comes talking about why to own gold, I say, let me ask you a question, man. What gives the dollar its world reserve status? And you know, most people can't answer it. Almost everyone I ask, it blows me away. They have no idea why the dollar is the world reserve. And for those out there who don't know, don't raise your hand and don't feel bad. It's because we protect Saudi Arabia. In 1974, the protection of the Saudi kingdom, as negotiated by Kissinger, allowed us to be the world reserve currency. And for that privilege, for protecting the kingdom, the Saudis would denominate oil universally through OPEC in dollars. That is what gave us the world reserve status. The fact that Russia struck a joint military cooperation agreement with Saudi and then with Nigeria, the two biggest OPEC producing countries in the world, was the beginning of the end. And you can see it starting to play out. These are the reasons why gold and silver, I believe, are not being allowed to express themselves. Because I think, obviously, from someone higher up than just the board at Bank of America, they are being told to do this with immunity. They're not worried about RICO charges. They're not worried about going to jail. Someone is telling them, do not let gold and silver go. But you know what? All manipulations, especially for impure reasons, they die and end badly. You cannot hold back the global tide of demand that we're seeing in silver. And I just think that a day like today, while frustrating, has to be seen for what it is, an opportunity. And yes, we keep saying that, but yes, we put our money where our mouths are. And I try hard to poke holes in this argument, Bixie. And every day I look at what's happening in this world and what's going on economically, monetarily, even spiritually and morally, and it just keeps bringing me back to the same place. Keep stacking. And I'm not talking my book. I just don't see any other alternatives than to de-dollarize into an asset class that isn't at all-time highs and inversely correlated to a rise in rates. Look what's happening to the real estate market as an example. You got rates that have gone from 3 to over 5 in 18 months, and or less than that, 12 months. And you know, this is, you can see what they're going to try to do, or what's going to happen to the markets when rates rise. And that's nothing yet. You got this lady at the federal, one of the members of the Federal Open Market Committee says she wants rates to get up to 2.5% by federal funds rate by year's end, because she calls that equilibrium. Now, I'm not quite sure where equilibrium at 2.5% comes in with inflation at 8.5%. But the point of it is the Fed is so far behind the curve, there's not much that they can do. They're going to continue to inflate. And it's for that reason that the rest of the world is going to raise rates by seeking alternatives, by dumping dollars, by de-dollarizing. And maybe that's by design. I don't know. But at some point, you're going to see rates spike. And when that happens, it's going to be a religious experience for the wealthy people in this country. And this is why you own gold and silver. It's not to get wealthy. It is because it is wealth in these crazy times. So having it in stock, being able to deliver it quickly is very important when things are changing as quickly as they are.
I agree 100%, 1,000%. And that's why we are doing this right now. Andy, what do you have in inventory that if people want to get their hands on physical stuff? I can tell you right now, I invest in silver and cryptos. Silver, I used to invest in mining stocks. I'm just down to physical now. I think physical is the only thing that's going to survive this. I invest in cryptos for the future, not for the past or the chaos that I see coming. I see those as future investments. I feel so safe with my silver investment in my own hands. And that's what we need now. It's not getting rich. It's about preserving your capital. It's about being able to survive an insane banking system that's about to be shown for what it is. What do you have in inventory that people can buy right now?
So we have other things in inventory, but what incentivized me to reach out to you was a very large purchase that we made from Singapore. They are, let me just double check here. Okay, we have 7,000 plus 10-ounce kookaburras, and they're each in plastic capsules. It's a big 10-ounce coin, and I have 700 plus kilo koalas. I also have some of the kilo kookaburras as well, and they are in stock. They are ready to go. And I believe I should have probably had that price for you. Give me 1 second. I'll give you the price as I find them.
Well,
But
they can contact you for the price.
yes,
Because I mean, that's the way to get the best price is not to tell everybody your price.
that's fine. Well, I'll make sure that your listeners get the very best price in the country on them. They're fantastic coins, and more importantly, they're in stock.
And to get in touch with you, it's info@milesfranklin.com.
Mention Bix Weir sent me, or Road to Ruta sent me. You can put the kilo or the 10-ounce Australian coins in there. We'll send you a complete inventory along with the prices on those. And you're the first person I've told about these. And, you know, it's amazing. I used to, back in the day, I spend $3 million+ on 10-ounce and kilo coins. I'd be like, hey, okay, I guess. Who knows how long it'll take. It's the kind of environment where I wish I had $30 million to buy these with, or I wish I had $30 million worth of inventory that I could buy, because that's how fast it's going. So you're the first person I called. You're the first person I thought of. And I just wanted to give, out of appreciation, your listeners first dibs at them. And so, yeah, send us an email, info@milesfranklin. They're in stock. We'll answer any questions, send you an inventory with other items, and go from there.
That sounds perfect. Exactly what we need right now. Again, the moving averages were breached because Bank of America has to get rid of a lot of shorts, and a lot of the banks are the buyers now. You want to be in there buying when they're buying. Definitely. They tend to have a good track record, not by shorting, but when they go long. And definitely now's the time they're starting to go long. Anything below $24 is a screaming buy, in my opinion.
I got a question for you, Bix.
Yep.
I'm going to turn the table. I'm going to ask you a question. When the hell are the managed money traders going to stop playing this game? You know, when the commercial banks go long, that means the money managers are going short. When are they going to stop playing this game?
Well, so many of them have already gone by the wayside, and then they get a new one. I have a feeling there's people within like BlackRock who said, okay, we're going to be a loss leader in this area, but we're going to make it up in this area. So it is a game, and it's a fraud. And the CFTC just hired 4 new commissioners. 2 of them, one worked for Citibank and one worked for JP Morgan. So clearly the government is going to do nothing to stop the game. But what does the game mean? The game means that we get to buy cheap silver until the game is over. When the game is over, you're not going to get silver at any price, in my opinion, for a while. So definitely take advantage of this opportunity of getting physical silver in your own possession. Andy, thank you for telling us about what you got.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys for listening, and absolutely time to get off the couch and make your silver purchases, because who knows if this is the last slam we'll see. I have a good feeling about this summer, definitely, with everything else happens. So we'll see how it goes.
I appreciate you, Bixie. I look forward to talking with you again soon. You stay well, and look forward to picking up where we left off not too far down the road.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you, my man.